Oh, hello, you're back. It's time for Wednesday's reading skills. Caught me reading again. And today we're going to continue our look at the job description. So before we get ready for today's lesson, if you want to head over to files to get the full text from there, you can do, or it's all in the video with the questions if you just want to pause. You'll need a pen or pencil, purple pen just like yesterday. And I would stop at this point and say if you weren't here for yesterday's lesson, it's worth going back to yesterday to revisit what we did before we do today's. Now, today's focus will be entirely on the V in Vipers. We're just looking at one particular skill. V, of course, stands for what? That's right, vocabulary, spot on. All about words and the meaning of words. For that reason, I chose a particular text to talk about in my little I Love Reading segment today. Another favourite of mine, on my number 2 on my list, is The Hobbit. I loved this book when I was about your age. I really loved it because it was a book that was read to me by my dad, and it's quite a difficult text because it was written 100 or so years ago, and so the text, the word choices are quite complex and quite different to a lot of children's books now. And one of the best things about having it read to me is my dad was able to help me with some of the difficult vocabulary. The other things I loved about it were it was a great story of adventure. It's an amazing fantasy story of a hobbit, a little half man, half-sized person, and his adventure with a group of dwarves to reclaim the dwarves' home, reclaim their treasure from the dragon Smaug. It's a long, winding tale full of incredible characters, full of orcs and goblins and all that sort of thing, and I loved it. I loved the voices that my dad did when he read it to me. I wonder if you've got stories at home that you share with your parents or relatives, that when they read them to you and they give certain characters certain voices, it brings the book to life. One of the voices I really loved was my dad's version of the dragon Smaug. And this particular part of the text that I've chosen today comes from the moment when Bilbo Baggins goes into the cave and first sees the dragon Smaug. Some of the words in it are quite tricky and difficult to understand. The green ones I'm going to help you with. The yellow ones we're going to work together to try and see if we can answer questions about their vocabulary. Smaug. There he lay, a vast red golden dragon, fast asleep. Thrumming came from his jaws and nostrils, and wisps of smoke, but his fires were low in slumber. Vast, that means huge, massive size. So a huge red golden dragon, fast asleep, thrumming came from his jaws and nostrils, and wisps of smoke, but his fires were low in slumber. In a minute, we're going to try and define that word and try and replace it with something else, thrumming. So I'll talk about that in a bit more in detail in a second. Beneath him, under all his limbs and his huge coiled tail, and about him on all sides, stretching away from the unseen floors, lay countless piles of precious things. Gold, wrought and unwrought, gems and silver red stained in the ruddy light. So the first one we're going to look at is the word thrumming. What word could we replace that with? Well, it's something that's happening whilst the dragon is fast asleep. It's something that's coming from his jaws and nostrils. Fast asleep is a bit of a clue there. I'll give you an extra clue. It's a sound coming from his jaws and nostrils. Now the next one there, we're looking at the gold. Around him lay countless piles of precious things, gold, wrought and unwrought. So two different types of gold. And then we've got gems and jewels and silver red stained in the ruddy light. So we've got silver that's stained red in this particular type of light. So what particular type of light would cause that? See if you could find the meaning of those words and suggest replacements for them that we could use. Okay, so just have a pause and think about that, and now we'll look at the answers. So the first one, thrumming, is a fantastic word. It means a sort of rhythmical humming noise. So this is a bit like a snoring sound, isn't it? That the dragon's making a sort of noise. Fast asleep with this rhythmical humming coming from his jaws and nostrils. The next one, the gold that's been wrought and unwrought. So it means the word wrought there means it's been shaped in a certain way. So it's been shaped and unshaped. So the shaped one, that's going to be where it's been made into, I don't know, medals or necklaces or plates or rings. Unwrought, that's going to just be in the sort of lumps of gold that come out of the ground. I wonder if you got that one. The last one, the big clue here is red stained, because ruddy light means reddish light, light of a red colour. If something is ruddy coloured, it's red. So here the word ruddy light is the light that's turning the silver red. A fantastic story, and one that I would recommend that one to you if you fancy a good read to share with someone maybe one day at home. Okay, back to our jobs for this week. We're looking at the Mayan job description. And our next paragraph is going to be all about the skills you need for the job. So we're going to look at this text together. I'm going to read through it, and then we're going to try and pause and answer those questions underneath. Skills. Your main job is likely to be based in farming, so you will need to have skills in growing and harvesting crops. You will also need to be able to turn the dense jungle into suitable farmland. The forests often need to be cut back and burned so the nutrients from the ash can make the soil fertile. Question 1. What is meant by the word dense? We see the word dense there with the word jungle. What is meant by the word dense in relation to jungle being turned into suitable farmland? And then question 2. Use the text to explain how fire can contribute to effective farming. It's a tricky question to understand, so you can pause and go, or I'll give you a few hints with that one. How can fire contribute to effective farming? So contribute meaning to help with. So how can fire help with effective farming? That means good farming, farming that works. How can fire be good for farming? We're going to use the last sentence where it says the forests often need to be cut back and burnt so that nutrients from the ash can make the soil fertile. So pause here and have a go at that. Okay, here comes some answers for these. Dense means that the trees are packed tight together. They're all jammed in densely in the forest. The second one, it is a challenging one. When we burn cut down trees, the ash adds nutrients to the soil, as it says in the last sentence of the text, that makes the soil fertile, that helps plants to grow. So we need some suggestion of how the ash from fire makes the soil fertile, or the ash from the fire helps plants to grow. Okay, so that's that section complete. We're going to move on to our next one. Now, on this one here, we've got a section all about diet. I'm not going to read this one to you. I'd like you to have a go at reading this one yourself. You're going to read through it, and then the vocabulary questions are coming on the next page. So pause here to read. Okay, and now let's move on to the questions. The questions relating to this text are related to vocabulary. So what I would like you to do is identify the word that is being described here over on the left using the text that we just read on the last page. So we're looking for a word that matches each of these definitions from the last page's text all about diet. Okay, so I hope you've completed that one, because here come your answers. So pause here for the answers. All right, so hopefully you did well there. Got 5 out of 5 or something very close to it. I'll be back tomorrow for our third session of reading skills for the week. See you then.